If you guys need to, rewatch or like just review some of the things that we'll be doing tonight, well, you can always go back to it. But it's important that I state this. I mean, I'm not asking you guys to pay me any money, so I think it wouldn't be bad if I ask you to take a minute or, a minute or even 30 seconds of your time. When I post a YouTube link, maybe just subscribe and like or whatever, you know, just to help the channel grow. Then maybe I can eventually consider putting in more content and who knows. But yeah, so just for the so just you guys know, I will be posting this session on YouTube. So we will get started, not to waste any more of our time. So we'll be doing Git. Oh my God. Uh, yeah, I'll eventually post the link, or maybe I can just share it here. Let me see. I even know my own YouTube link. Um, I think you can just search perpetual coder. Yeah, yeah. Search for perpetual coder. Yeah, that's my perpetual coder. But anyways, I'll post it up here. Um, let's see. Where's the okay? So I just shared the YouTube link. Oh, so Git. So what is Git? I think it's best to have an understanding of what Git is. Mr. Balogun, do you want to ask anything? I see that your hands, you're raising your hand. Is there another way to drop that hand, maybe? Okay, there's no other way to drop the hand. Let's see.
So
Yeah,
we can start right away. I think you have spoken a lot, so let's just continue
yeah.
with
Yeah.
the discussion.
All right, I'm getting started with the Git already. Okay, thank you. So, Git, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, entire screen. Yeah. Tinubu, right? No, it's not Tinubu. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Well,
Yep, we
Yes,
can.
yes.
okay. Well, so henceforth, when I ask the questions, you can just maybe post on the chat box, just to let me know what you're thinking or your responses on there. And if you have any question, whatever you need to say, please just put in the chat box, and I'll occasionally, just look at it to see if there are any things that we need to, address along the way. So Git, what is Git? What is Git basically? Um, well, Git is a version control system, and that is basically the simplest definition you can get for Git. And in the real sense, that's what Git is really. And just to share a quick story about how Git came up. Um, so apparently, the person who started this Git thing or who wrote Git was or is Linus Torvalds. I don't know if you guys know him, but it's the guy you know who programmed the Linux kernel, the Linux operating system. And at the time, I think he was hosting with a particular company, or you wanted to move, the his files to to other companies that are like hosting files or doing sort of like version control. But then I think they had a bit of a misunderstanding. And what happened was this guy literally dumped all his work and he spent the next 2 weeks writing Git. He literally wrote Git in 2 weeks, you know, and eventually Git became the de facto, it became the standard, for version control system. Besides Git, there are other kind of version control system though, but they kind of like work in a bit different way from Git. Now, when I say version control system, what does that mean? Version control. I mean, I think it literally, the name literally speaks for it. Like So for every phase of your development, you always have like a version. Someone saying that to Vex use 3 weeks to write new OS. Yeah, right. Well, so basically, for every code you're writing, there's usually you can literally have versions of it. Let's say, for instance, you're working on a certain feature. Let's say you're building a Facebook clone, and for Facebook, there are different kind of features, that's running on Facebook. So you have the authentication, which is logging in aspect, and the signing up. That's one feature. You have the liking comments and stuff like that. Commenting is another feature actually. You could say the like and unlike part is another feature. The friend request part is another feature. The posting content, it's another feature. So imagine, let's say today you're building the UI. Even that's one phase of it, and then when you build that phase, uh, you can save it and give it a version name. So that could be like version, zero or whatever version that you want to give it, and then that gets saved. And then the next time when you go onto your version control system, you can copy that, and then when you make a new feature, like say maybe you now eventually start working on the back end, and then you build your login feature, and then you add that login feature into you know the front end that you've made, then obviously that the application has grown from the previous stage, and then you can save that back into you know the main branch, and then that becomes another version. Now the sweet thing about Git is you can always refer back to a previous version. So initially you started with the master version, the master branch, where you started with the UI, right? And then the next phase was to now link the UI to which is the front end, to link the front end to the backend code that you write, which is the login feature, the authentication feature, right? And then if you feel like maybe there's something you still need to do with the front end feature version, you can roll back to that first version, and we'll see all of these things at play when I start the practical session, which well, I'll be starting in a few minutes. So basically, now where GitHub comes in, GitHub is not the owner of Git, even though the name as Git, the name in GitHub as Git. GitHub is not the owner of Git. GitHub, however, is a company like a lot of other companies that runs Git service. So that means you can host your project, you can store your projects on GitHub server or others. So there's GitLab, there's GitLab, there's GitHub, like you guys know. There's Bitbucket, like that's another one. So these are some of like the popular ones. So there's GitLab, there's GitHub, there's Bitbucket. Now they are actually companies that provides Git service. And another thing is with the service, a lot of programmers, developers can collaborate and work on the same code base. So let's say like the Facebook clone that I mentioned earlier, yeah, you could have a team of one, two, three, four, five, as many team of programmers working on the same application, and everyone is working on different feature. Now you have your master branch, which is going to be the repository that you make. Now your repository is basically like a big box, like it's like your wardrobe. I don't know if or like the kitchen wardrobe where you store spice into one compartment, and then you store the dishes into another compartment, and then you store what else, whatever thing you can store into different kind of compartments. And that's just how. So those compartments are like different versions. So if you need to go to a certain version, you can literally just commit and go to a certain version of yeah, certain version. And you can also have branches, and the branches literally means like you have like a different kind of bubble, so you're working in a different compartment outside of the original the original compartment basically. So you're working outside of that, and that way you don't affect every other person that's working on the same code, and you also do not affect the original code itself. And then when all those things that you're doing outside of inside of that branch, which is outside of the main compartment, when you're done, you can merge the branch, the new changes to the original source code, and that's where the whole merging thing comes in. So if anybody has any question to ask, you can leave it in the chat box, and then like I said, I'll always refer back to that just to see if anyone has anything to clear up. So basically, that's just the whole idea of Git. Git, and then GitHub. So you need to understand, Git is one thing, GitHub is another. GitHub is a service provider, basically. They provide Git services, you know, where programmers can go on and collaborate. Git, however, is a version control system. So they are two different things and they are not in any way related. The only relationship they have is Git is providing GitHub rather is providing Git service. Git on its own is different and it's created by Linus Torvalds. So they're two different things, yeah. And like I mentioned, GitHub is just one company. It's very popular. GitHub ranks, I think, the number one, but it's kind of like very contested, with stuff like big companies like Bitbucket and GitLab. Yeah. And another thing is with Git provides a public repository. I'm sure you guys have noticed when you try to create a new repository, you click on the new, yeah. And this is all assuming that you're already signed in. You can see I'm signed in. So now when you create your repository, try to create a repository, it shows you these two categories of, repositories that you can create, which is the public one or the private. Now, you see the summary there. With the public one, anyone on the internet can see this repository. And most open source software use the public repository where people can contribute. You can have access to the source code. You can play around the source code and all that. And then there's the private also, where obviously it's only the people. You can see that you choose who can see. Only the people that you want to see will be able to see the repository. So it's like basically you add them on the project as collaborators, and yeah, so that's pretty much a summary of Git and GitHub, and I hope that like kind of like clears things up a bit. So we will now dive into stuff. We'll dive into the practical session, which I believe is what all of you are here for, and obviously subsequent guys will be watching on the YouTube too. So I'll go back to my GitHub page. Now, for GitHub though, in order to use the service, and this applies to the rest of the Git service providers too, or Git hosting companies too, like GitLab, Bitbucket. In order to use the service, you need to be authenticated. You need to sign in, right? So you create an account, you have your account, and then of course now on the web, and this is the thing with GitHub, on the web you're able to log in with your user and password, your email and password, yeah. But on the terminal, which is where we'll mostly be using these services, oh, well, you guys can see I was playing around C because I'm still learning C. Well, so we'll mostly be using GitHub on the terminal for Unix and Linux system. But I did a video one time which I showed you how to remote connect to your server using SSH, and then I also did another one which is this, installing Git on Windows PC. Now, when you install your when you install Git on a Windows computer, you can install. It comes with a Linux-like command line terminal. Basically, it comes with Linux like it's actually a Linux terminal. So actually, Git was created with Linux in mind. Yeah, Git was created with Linux in mind, so it kind of like works very well with the whole. It's like it's at home with Linux or Unix systems. Yeah, so in order to really enjoy using Git, on your Windows, I would strongly recommend that you install Git you install Git Bash alongside Git on your Windows computer. So when you have Git Bash, you'll be able to use most of the Linux commands, at least most of the ones that you need to use for your work. Um, so well, you can check my videos, the ones that I've done in the past. So installing Git on a Windows PC, I think that will be very useful for people who need to, learn how to use the Git Bash and stuff like that. So, anyways, we will. So now you're on your GitHub page, and like I said, GitHub is hosting all of your repository, all of your source code, to be on the server, and then you can have all sorts of people on your team to collaborate, and that depends if you're making your repository public or you're making it private. So we'll just get to it. We will get to it. We will just get to it. So there are different ways of. Oh, before I get into that, first I need to state whatever you do on your local computer, on your computer, which is considered local. Local means this is your own home. Just like when you're in a football match and they're like local team or home teams, like what's in your domain, your area there, and yeah, and then the server at GitHub. The server at GitHub, where all your files, where you're saving all your files, where you're doing all the collaboration and all that, that is the remote server. So when you hear stuff like your local server and remote server, the remote server is the other company that is hosting your stuff, where you need to connect to remotely. And your local server is the one you're currently working on, which is your computer, right? Just like the sandbox. The sandbox is actually it's a virtual machine, yeah, but that's your local, right? Now from there you can connect remotely to the GitHub server, right, to work on your code and stuff like that. Copy, merge, clone, and all sorts. Right. So that needs to be cleared up. So now there are two ways or different ways I'd say in the different ways to create your code and connect them to GitHub. So we'll look at two, which is the ones that are mostly used. I don't know if there are other ones out there, other kind of ways to do it out there. But yeah, so the first one is to create a repository on GitHub, right? So you create this repository and then you give it whatever name. So for this, I want to give it let's see, I want to give it, let's just call this test or shell navigation. Yeah, because I think I was playing around shell navigation too. So let's call this shell navigation, yeah? And then you can choose, you see this is optional, you can choose. Now if the name is not already existing, if you have not created this repository before inside of your account, then you, of course, it'll be available. But if you have, then it won't exist. Like I have this one here. Yeah, you see, I have this also. I have this already on one of my repositories. So it is not accepting because it already exists on this account. So you have to use something that's not existing. So I'll go with shell navigation because that is not existing. And then you can choose to give it a description or not. That's totally up to you. Here I want to give it a description. Learning to navigate the shell. This one I will make a public repo. And then, okay, someone's knocking. Come on in. Yeah, so this one I will make a public repo and I will create the repository. Remember, your repository is like the main compartment where your source code will live in. So when I create that, now this is an interesting thing. When you do this, a couple of years back, right? I think this is a new feature that was introduced. I'm not sure. I can't really tell, but I started noticing it and I started using it. But I can't really tell since when I started using it. Yeah, and this is this branch. Before now, it used to be called the master branch, and the master branch still exists actually in Git. Yeah, just the difference is I don't know, for whatever reason Git wants us to now use main instead of the master branch. right? And if they're recommending that, I would advise everyone goes with it. Yeah. So now, if you did the show navigation thing, yeah, on ALX, you would realize that a lot of people were having issues. Maybe you passed the first task, and then the second one is not passing, even though you feel like you're doing everything right, you know, and then like just several kind of issues down the road. Uh, Most of those issues are emanating from this error here, because on their instruction page, they kind of like let you guys connect, configure your Git rather, and it is literally created on the master branch. So the branch that you did your Git on, or created your Git on, initiated your Git on, was on the master branch, not the main branch, and that's why a lot of people were having issues. And so we'll just do this. So basically, you want to clone this, which is, like I said, this is one way of doing it. First, you create the repository on the Git web UI, which is the web application. Now, there are two ways of connecting, or three ways. There's one which is a Git desktop, which is a GUI, graphical user interface, or you can connect using the HTTPS, which is this. But for me, I do not use HTTPS, but you can use the HTTPS if you want. It still works the same way. For me, I mostly use the SSH, and that's because I already configured my system to use SSH. And I think, let me see if I made a video on how to. Okay, this is to remote connect your to an SSH server. Okay, um, maybe I'll do another video to show us how to connect your gate to your SSH. Where am I? Here. Okay. So now I want to clone this repository. Yeah. So usually this is the link. If you're using SSH, you can see it does not start with the HTTPS. If you're using HTTPS, it starts with the HTTPS. Now it comes with a username, which obviously it is expected. Now for you to be able to authenticate your Git on your either your Git bash, or if you're using Unix like Mac OS, or you're using Ubuntu or other Linux OS, it is expected that you first configure your GitHub account to your terminal. Now, the command to do that is the git config dash dash global. Now, this global stands for system-wide configuration. It means system-wide configuration, rather. It means that, look, this configuration will be applicable everywhere you try to access Git. Yeah. So git config dash dash global user the email, and then you type the email address that you used to open your account or whatever. Now, for me, I already did this, so there's no point. Virtual coder. I already did this, so there's no point. And then when you do that, you do the other part of it. Now, this other part of it, I need to make clear, yeah? Git config dash dash global, which is still part of the instruction that you guys were given. Now, user.name. I see a lot of people using their username here. Well, it would work apparently, but what this is expecting is your name as it is on your GitHub profile. So it's like this, this name. That's what it's expecting there. So you do that, yeah, it just goes in, and then you can check git config dash dash list, I believe. Yeah, so you can see it shows you your user email, and then oh well. This one is for my company. So apparently, I have two GitHub accounts running on my PC. One is for for work. The other is for the other kind of work, which is freelance and stuff. My own job and stuff like that. So so basically, what else? Oh, I actually navigated away from that page. Okay. So having done that, when you have done that, now GitHub does not accept when you try to push, when you have done that configuration, that git config command and all that, it would not ask you for password until when you try to push. And that is saying that if you have not authenticated yourself on your terminal or your git bash or whatever you're using, yeah. Now, if you have not authenticated yourself, Git will eventually ask you for password. Now, when it asks the password, it is not asking for your usual password. it is asking for either your personal access token, which you can Google how to create. Well, there's no need to do. I'll just show you how. So you can go here and then go to settings, and then you can go to your developer settings, and then you can, you know, go to personal access token, which I have one, but I prefer to use the fine grain one. You can see I have one. This is expired. This one I'm not using. I think what? Yeah, I haven't used it. Then you can also use the tokens, the classic one. This is recommended by Git, so I'll recommend it also. Just go for it. So that's how you create your personal access token. Now, with your personal access token, you can generate one. When you generate, for me, I have to like confirm my, yeah, I have to confirm my access to do some things in my Git. Well, anyway, so you can generate your token, and that's how you authenticate yourself. When it asks for password, then you can use that personal access token. Or if you're like me and you have configured something that is called SSH, you know, then you'll be able to use Git using SSH. If you use the personal access token, I think you'll be cloning using the HTTPS server. For me, I won't be using the HTTPS server because I have configured my terminal, my Git to connect to my local to remote, connect using SSH. It's already been configured like that. Yeah, so that's about that. I'm going to go ahead and clone this repo now. So I'll copy this, which is for the SSH. Make sure whatever one you're using, if it's HTTPS, make sure it's showing this HTTPS thing. So the GitHub domain, your username, and usually the name of the repo, then the git. So I'll do SSH because I'm special. I'm just kidding. Okay, someone's at the door. Someone's at the door. Someone's at the door. Okay, so I'm doing SSH again, and that's because I'm special. Yeah, I'm still kidding. Well, that's because I configured my terminal already on my local server to connect to GitHub's remote server using SSH. Remember, I mentioned local server, remote server. Local is your computer, your working environment. Remote is the server that Git provides for you. It's very important to know that your remote server is the server that Git provides for you, where you're able to store your code and everything. That's your remote environment, your remote server. Your local server is where you're currently working on your computer, what you have access to, right? Now, this is what's going to happen. Let me see. Let's see. Let me get out of this and then seed into this. And then, yeah, okay, seed into Git. Then let's see. Okay. All right, I'll just clone it here since I have a GitHub. Oh, by the way, I hope you guys remember your shell navigation commands with GitHub print working directory and all that, so you can see I have my stuff there and all. So, but of course, my terminal, the way that displays is going to be different from, if you're using Mac or you're using other Linux flavor. It's still going to be different because I configured mine to be really different. So don't worry about how it displays. As long as it's working, that's the most important. I think whoever just came into another mic. So, okay. Balogun Luwasho was saying, so what you're saying is that we can use the SSH copy. Yeah, can be used on terminal. Yeah, actually you can. Like my sandbox, my terminal on the sandbox, I actually pushed to my GitHub using SSH. I didn't use the personal access token actually. So you can configure, but of course you need to, you need to know how to do that. So I would, for your level right now, I would recommend that you use the personal access token since that's what you're kind of like used to, and that's a lot more easier to use, even though the token can be very long. you know. I'll probably do a separate video to show you guys how to, set up your Git to remotely connect to it using SSH. I think maybe tomorrow or next I'll do a short video on that. Shouldn't be up to 10 minutes, I guess. So, well, that's that. Where was I again? So I'm gonna clone the repo that I created on GitHub. So copy this. I am using SSH. Remember, you would have to use HTTPS. When it asks you for password, if you have just configured Git on your GitHub, I would repeat that again. If you have just configured Git, and then it asks you for your password, email is the email address that you used to create, and name again. Remember, name is your name on your profile, not your username. I see a lot of people using username. Please, it's your name. If you needed your username, it will be user.username, okay? There's a reason why it's user.email, user.name, and stuff like that. So that's that. So I'll just clone now. Oh, no, I'm not using the HTTPS, sorry. I'm not using the HTTPS, no, okay. So I'll just I am using the SSH, yeah. So I'll copy and I'll use the SSH. Oh, my bad. So git, my bad, sorry, it's supposed to be git clone, yeah? Git clone. Now, this is to clone this repository. Even though this repository is empty right now, there is nothing in it. If I open it on another page, you see, there's nothing. When there's something in it, it takes out all of this. When you refresh it, you see in this code, it shows you everything. Now, everything relating to this repository, settings, pull requests, actions, whatever thing, they are all on this navigation tab here. Yeah. So I'll do the git clone, which is to clone that repository. And then I'm cloning it now, and then it tells me, yeah, you appear to have cloned an empty repository. Of course it is an empty repository. Now, that's not all. Cloning is one part, yeah? Another part is to now, you can decide if you want to create a file and save in there. Now, it is kind of like convention for people to have a README file. Now, the README file is literally what shows, tells about your project, the project that you're working on. So you can, write things about your project inside of the README. Now, you see that the README ends in .md, which is, MD stands for Markdown language. And Markdown language is actually pretty easy to use. It is very, very easy to use. I think it's something anyone can learn in a day. So it's called Markdown language. And that's the language that you use to write in the README. So this is the basic syntax. You can click on the Markdown guide. So you can see if you know HTML or something, or you're familiar with HTML, this is how I think I'll use some of these things, to write in the README. So for me right now, I've cloned the empty repo, and now I want to, let's say I want to add the README. So I'll go ahead and click create a new file, which is a touchreadme.md, right? Markdown language. That's in MD. Now if I do that and I do ls, I have, oh, my bad. I need to delete that. I need to delete that. Yeah. So first things first, after you've cloned the repository, you need to go inside of that repository directory, right? This is very important. My bad. Forget I ever did this. So we need to change into it, and I'll show you why you need to. Right now, if I do ls-a, you see I only have these hidden files, right? Now, if I go into this file, let's say I'll just create another, I'll create another folder, another directory. Let's say I call this example, or let's say, what can I use? Playing Git, yeah, just playing Git. Now, if I go into this playing Git, yeah, now this one is not connected to Git. This new directory is not connected to Git in any way. And this is how I know. When I do ls-a, it is not connected to Git, right? So when I go back, yeah, and here where I have my shell navigation, and I try to connect, I change directory into the shell navigation, which is, this one is coming from the Git. Now if I do cd shell navigation, and I'm in there, now if I do ls-a, watch what happens. You can say I have this .git, which I don't have in all other folders that is not connected to Git. Now this is how you know that the current directory that you're on is connected to Git. Now all of the Git configuration is now inside of this .git. What helps you to connect to the remote server? This is where all the configuration lives. I hope it is clear. I hope you guys are getting it. This is very important. Very, very, very important. If I remove this .git, watch what happens. Oh, it's a directory, so I have to use rmf or rmr, yeah. If I remove this, watch what happens. It's gone. So I cannot come here and do git status again. I'll remove this directory again. I will, yeah, what's that shell? So I'll clone it again. I hope you guys are following. Let me clear my screen. And then I'll clone it again. I think I have it on here. Git clone. No. Where's that thing? So I'll copy the link again and I'll clone it again. And yeah, it's cloned. So now I'll move into that directory. And now when I do git status, you see, it tells me I'm on branch main. And that's because I still have this .git there. If I remove this .git again, watch what happens. And then I do git status. Now I do not have that git command inside because it is no longer connected to the git server. So I hope you guys understand. This is very important. When you do this, you maybe want to always check, and especially when you're using the git command and it's telling you that not a git repository, you should know that, look, whatever directory or folder you're currently on, it is not linked, it is not connected to git. Because if it is, then obviously there'll be the git thing, the .git file or folder in there. So I'll remove that directory again, and then I'll go over and do what's necessary. So I'll git clone this shell navigation again, yeah, and I'll cd into the shell navigation, and now I have my git here. So I can do git status, I can run all git commands in here. Now I want to create the readme file, readme.md, which is kind of like convention. By convention, most people use readme. So currently, if let me open that again. Okay, so I have this. Okay, that's good. You guys are getting it. So if I come here and I refresh, there's still nothing here. So nothing is going to show. But the moment I do, oh, okay, so I have readme also. So you can see inside of my shell navigation, yeah, I have readme.md file. Now this file is sitting on my local server, on my local computer, my local server, right, local environment. It is not yet committed to the Git server, the remote server. Very important. You can have your file on your local server, and that could mean that you're working on it. Maybe you're building something, but you're not ready to push that file or that changes to the Git server. You're still on your local server. Whatever you have, as long as it is not committed to the Git server or pushed to the Git server, which is a remote server, then it remains local. Now, if I do Git status now, something has changed. Now, Git is telling me, oh, I see a new file, but this file is not being tracked yet by Git. Yeah, it has not been connected to Git. Now, in order for this file to be connected to Git, all I need to do is git add. I can say git add and the name of the file. Yeah, readme.md. Now, this is one way to add. Now, if the reason why most people don't use this is the fact that imagine that you have hundreds or 1,000 files, you know, that you need to add at the same time. Then it means that you'd have to like git add another file, you know, another file, git add another this, git add that, and it can really become, you know, cumbersome. Now, so if I do git status now that I've added the readme.md, you see, now it says changes to be committed. There's a new file. It sees it as a new file. But now the fact that this file is there does not mean that it has been pushed to the GitHub server. No, it is not pushed yet. But now GitHub can track any changes that goes on in that file. Now let me open my navigation in my text editor. So I will go on the README and I'll use a Markdown language this time. So for the Markdown language, I'm not going to be teaching Markdown language, but I'll just use a couple of stuff. I already know what to type, but I just want to show you. So you guys see there's the hash. If you're using one hashtag, then it's heading level 1, and you can see it's a bigger font size than the rest. 2 is heading level 2. There are other stuff that you can use. So in HTML it translates to H1, blah 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 blah. If you do, so it says do this, don't do this. So there has to be spacing in between. There has to be spacing between the hashtag and the rest of your content. So these are all like stuff that you can use in, in Markdown language. But for me, of course, I know what to use and all that. So I'll just come here and I'll say I am learning. No, you can say you're learning, but I'm teaching it. So I'm teaching Git and GitHub. Yeah, GitHub. So I'll save this. Now watch what happens. Before now it says new file, changes to be committed. Now if I do git status again, you can see it has noticed that there's a change. But this change has not been committed yet. It has not been tracked yet. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it has noticed that there's a change in the file, but it has not committed that changes to the .git in the .git configuration, this one that we saw in here. It has not captured this new modification. So in order for you to capture it, you need to, let me clear this. In order for you to capture it, then you need to add that file again, add readme. But like I said, if you have hundreds of files that you need to add at the same time, you don't want to be typing each one by one. So you want to use the dot. The dot stands for all of it. Or you can also use -a, which is the same, but most programmers use the dot. So you use the dot, dot stands for all, and then it captures everything. Now if I do git status now, you see, there are no commits yet, but there have been changes. It's still a new file because it has not been pushed to the Git server. Now this new file, the fact that Git is now tracking it, I mean, there are times when you have files that you don't want Git to track, right? And I'll show that also. You can have files in your, your folder or in a particular Git folder, and you do not want the Git to track. There are ways to go about that. But first, this file is being tracked by Git, but it is not a push to the Git server. I'll emphasize that. Now, I can remove this. I can say, oh, there's a mistake. I don't want my readme.md to be tracked. So it means I can say git rm and then the name of the file that I want to remove. The following changes, the following file has changes stage in there. Okay, so I can do it other ways. I can say git rm. I want to force the removal, and I can say readme. So you can see now if I do git status, you see on branch and there's nothing. So now it is not seeing that file, and the file is gone. Yeah, the file is gone, like literally deleted. You can see it's gone. So now I can come back here, maybe just create the file again, readme.md. Yeah, and then I'll do my stuff again. I'm teaching Git and GitHub. Okay, so git status, and then we have a new file, but it is not tracked. So now I'm going to add it, and I'm going to, and that's just one phase, yeah. Now if you look, when you created the repo on GitHub server, it tells you the processes to go. Now you do not need to do the git init, and that's because we cloned this. The git init is to give you this, is to be able to initialize this .git for you. And that's to show that, okay, your files or your folder is now being tracked by Git. But like I said, if you clone it this way, then you do not need to do the git init. Yeah. So we already have our readme.md, which is already added. Now, adding is one thing. If I do git status, it says no commit yet. So you need to commit that change, or you need to commit the new file. So here, this is the next command to follow after add, git commit. So the first part is add rather, not hard. The first part is the add. You're adding whatever changes or whatever new files, right, to be pushed to Git. The next phase is to commit the new file or changes that you made in the new file or an existing file rather. Now, git commit minus m stands for message. You could say dash dash message, but of course that's a bit longer. So most people use dash m. Yeah, and then you put in double quotes. You put your message. So I could say this is my first commit. Now you press enter, and then you should see something like this. Although this is telling me that my main branch, this my branch is main, not master, not master. But just to be very sure, and Git is also telling us that you should do this. Now this is where a lot of errors are coming in on the project that a lot of people did, because on the instruction page, this was not put on this was not there on the instruction page. Yeah, and so in a way, the way Git was configured on that sandbox, and I think the configuration has been done for a while, so it's still using master, right? It's still using master. So what people should have done is follow this instruction and make sure that their main branch is now changed from master to main. So you do that, and how do you know that you're on the? I mean, how do you check which branch you're currently on? We'll get to branches anyways. Let me just put that branch. We'll get to branch anyways. I'll just leave that for now. We'll go with the rest of the information. Now, this one, yeah, you don't need it also. When you're cloning, then you know you don't need to remote add to this repository. There's no need when you're cloning your repo, there's no need for that. But meanwhile, you can add it or you can choose to ignore it, whichever one. If I add it, it will tell me that it's already added. You can see the remote origin already exists, and that's because we have our Git here. So it's already tracking, so there's no point again. Now, we'll move on to the last part, which is git push minus u origin main. The u stands for upstream. Now, when I do this, it pushes all the changes to the remote server now. So you can see my branch is main, yeah? Now, if I refresh this page, I should see my new changes, which is this. So do you guys have any question? Let me see. Do you guys understand? Do you understand? Balogun is asking. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'll start from Dokang. Does that mean we have multiple version control systems? I'm not sure what that question means, but yeah, it means that you can have different versions of your source code, and that's because of the
No, sorry.
changes.
You said JIT is a version control system.
Right, right.
I was asking that are there other types of
Yeah,
version
yeah.
control systems?
There are. There's subversion, not some subversion. Uh, yeah. So you can see this is one. No, not that. This is one, and then there's I can't really remember the rest of you know, but I remember subversion. Subversion is one. In fact, it's one of the few ones that started before Git. So I think it was leading provider of subversion, offering managed self-hosted, whatever, wherever. But the way this operates is kind of like different to how Git operates actually. So so there are different kind of other version control system, but they have different ways to which they operate. So I hope that's clear. Okay, so I will go with Balogun. What's the difference between those two type of token, fine grain and classic? Okay, I can't really tell. I'm pretty new to the whole token thing. I've never used it until I saw it lately. I mostly use SSH, so maybe you can just read up on that. I'm sure there's documentation for that, so you can literally just do git personal access token, yeah, and then you should be able to read, yeah. So just Google around. I can't really tell you much on that. And then what other questions are there? Well, I hope so. Okay, so Dokung is actually answering that. Now, do we have something like package install git? Uh, okay, I can't really tell what this, but it sounds like a Linux command to install Git. Or for people who are using phone, it looks like you guys are, yeah, that's for timing. So I'm guessing that's for people who are coding or doing their thing on phone. Man, coding on phone can be really frustrating. Or anyways, so what you're saying is that we can use the SSH copy, blah, 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 blah. Well, you need to understand how to, configure SSH on your local computer that Git can be, can connect to. And by the way, you will have an SSH key that you need to save inside of Git. Like I said, that's a little bit still complicated. I'll probably do a separate video, short video, 10 minutes maybe, to explain how you can create your SSH key, and then you can add into your GitHub account, and then so whenever you do a connection between your remote and your local computer, you'll be connected via SSH. Okay, I'm not sure what Dokon is saying here. But yeah, by the way, I just want to confirm, are you guys understanding everything so far? So just put in the comments, the chat section, yes, 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 if you're understanding, and no if you're not, so we can maybe just quickly tackle your question. So everything so far that we have worked on, I hope you guys understand. Okay, so I am not Comosoft. Okay, yeah, so yeah, so we're good to go, I guess. Does anyone else have objection? Does anyone not understand anything or something that we have covered so far rather? Okay. Sunrise David, looks like you came in a bit late, yeah? It's a bit vague. Did you come in late? Because I thought I pretty much. Oh, I figured so. So you probably will watch the video on YouTube then. Because I spent a lot of time trying to explain the whole concept. I mean, it's like spending 15 minutes on it, trying to explain it. So I guess every other person that came in early understood it. So you'd have to rewatch the video on YouTube. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, well, now that we have pushed, wow. So move on. Did I say new? Okay. Well, anyway, so now that we have pushed, now we see this, and you can see the old README thing in action. So I can come here and then I can add new stuff. Now, if I do git status, it tells me there's nothing to, there's nothing to commit and all that. Now, I explained one time, a few minutes back that not all the files that you have in your directory you want to push on GitHub, especially files that, maybe you have your passwords, your database or something, or secret key, that that are working with your application, but you do not want to push. Now, it's essential, it's very important to know that you do not want to push things that are secret or stuff like passwords, credit cards, or whatever to your GitHub account. You do not want to push that. In fact, at some point, I think Git will send you a notice that something has been detected, like a security breach. That you should delete whatever you have on your repo. And that's because there are hackers who have bots or bots, whatever they call it, that are scanning, public or private repositories and looking for sensitive or private credentials. So you do not want to have that. Now, if you have those and they are in a way connected to your source code, and your source code is very dependent on them, then there are ways to use them and not push them to GitHub rather. And how do you do that? In order to have files that you do not want to push to GitHub, you want to create a new file, and this is by convention. It has to be this thing. It has to be .gitignore. It has to be .gitignore. It cannot be .git whatever I don't know your name or whatever. It has to be .gitignore. This is the convention. This is how it has to be. This is the name that you have to give it. Now, if we do ls and then we do well, yeah, when I do ls, you're not seeing it, and that's because every file name that starts with dot or every directory that starts with dot, they are usually invisible. So in order to see them, you want to use the -a flag, yeah, and so you can see, yeah. So now we have the .gitignore, but .gitignore is not pushed to GitHub yet. So if we do git status, you can see that we have an untracked file. But meanwhile, I want to create another file, and I want to call this do not track. Yeah. and then maybe .txt. Yeah, so do not track .txt. So now in this do not track.txt, I want to say this file will not be tracked and sent to GitHub. Yeah, so that's that. Now, in order for me, if I do git status now, you can see it's saying untracked file. But if I do git add, this file will now be tracked. But in order for this file to not be tracked, you have to add it inside of your .gitignore. It's very, very important. So here I can come. Now, the reason why I will do this, the reason why I'll do this, I can say if there's a long list of maybe I have 1, 2, 3 many files that are .txt, and I do not want to, so I'll save another, let me create another one. Do not track again.txt. So now I have 2 files that I do not want to track. Don't track this too. So git status, no, git status. Let me clear this. So I have 2 files that I do not want to track, right? Now, it could be, all kinds of files. It could be files that are like in all sorts of places. So if I want to do a generic search, I'm like, hey, do not track any file that ends in .txt. I can come here and I can use this tilde sign, and then I can say, I can do this, which stands for all. The asterisk sign stands for all, and I can say .txt. So this is telling the .gitignore file that do not. You can see the moment I did that, I saved that, these files went grayish. So it's like saying every file, this hash or asterisk rather, it stands for all files, all. Asterisk mostly stands for all. So when you see asterisk, then look at the code very well. It's mostly referring to all something. Now, it's saying that all files that end in .txt, I do not want them tracked. Now, if I go to my command and I do git status again, you can see it's not seeing those files again. It is not seeing those files again. Now, if I come here and I remove this, let's say I save that and then they are back again. I do git status and you see they're back. But let's say I want to not track only this. It means that I can come here and I can say do not track.txt. You see, the moment I save that, it goes gray. So if I do git status, that one is not there. So this is very, 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 very important. There are files that you do not want to push to GitHub. Those files, you have to name them or call them. Their directory, they can be in a directory. Let me create a directory. Make a directory. I want to say test. And I'll say touch test sample.txt. So if I want to not track this sample.txt, if I do git status, obviously I'm seeing the, this folder, and then inside of the folder, obviously it is capturing everything. But I want to look, hold on a minute. So I want to search, and I want to say do not include, check all folders, and I do not want to include sample. I don't want to put sample.txt. Yeah. So the moment I do that, so we have the, no, not that. Let's see, I think that's that. Is it? No, my bad. So let's try sample.txt. Yeah. So I put sample.txt, right? And then you can see it's grayed out too. So it is no longer tracking that file, but it is still tracking that folder, obviously. So if I have other things in that folder, let's say touch, let me clear this again. So let's say touch test rather. That's the test folder. I say track this.txt. So now in this test folder, it is not tracking sample, but it is tracking track this. And that's because sample is in the gitignore. So it will search through all the folders and files, and when it sees any names that corresponds to this in the gitignore, it will not track them. And that's what's happening. So if I do git status, it is not, it's tracking the test folder, but it is not tracking the file, this particular file in it, and it's not tracking this one. And like I said, if I want all the .txt files not to be tracked, that would be all asterisk then txt. And then you can see all the txt files are all grayed out. But I'll revert back to this, and then I'll do git status again. And then now I can do git add all, then git commit -m. Then we have done on tracking files via git ignore. So I do that, and then I can push now. Yep. So now I can go back to my GitHub and refresh, and I will have all these changes there. So you can see that I have this do not track, but I do not track again rather, but I do not have do not track in this. So does anyone have any question before we move on? Do you understand? Do you guys understand so far? Do you guys understand?
Small.
Okay, so what part have you gotten yourself confused?
No, I'm following it as a, for me, I learn best by doing, so I have to be it by myself.
Okay, so that means you can watch the YouTube video later then.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, if there's anyone else who needs clarification, please just put it in the chat box. Okay, so that's looking good. That's looking good. So okay, now we have done cloning, and we have done we have done pushing and all that. Now we want to do pull. I want to do pull. So let's say I come here and let's say I make a changes to this .readme, or I go to this file, this do not track, yeah, and I make changes to this. So I can come here to edit, and I make changes to don't track this. Well, I can change this. Well, this file is now being tracked. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, and then I can go down here, maybe give it a commit message, change content in file, and then I can commit this to the main branch. So that is done. It's been committed. But now look at this. You remember how we made changes on the local here, and then they are not tracked, and then we eventually added these things, and then they are now tracked, and then we commit them and send. This is on our local. Now there have been changes on the remote server, which is on GitHub server now. Now if we go here and we do, let me clear this, and then we do this do not track again. If we do less, we still have don't track this too. Yeah, I can quit this, or I can do cat. Yeah, we still have don't track this too. Yeah, but on the remote server, the content is changed, which is, well, this file is now being tracked. Now, in order to get these changes to our local environment, we'll have to use a command that's called git pull. Now, if I do git pull, it will pull up the new changes from the server. So you can see there has been changes, yeah. And how do I can do git diff to see what my bad. Git log, I believe. Okay, so the log, no, I was gonna get to this later. Let me clear this. But yeah, the git pull has worked, obviously. It has pull up the changes from the remote server already up to date. So now if I do the cat do not track again, you can see the content has now been updated to our local environment. Yeah. So this content here has now been pulled up to our local environment. And the command that was used is git pull. If I do that again, it won't pull anything. You'll see it already up to date. And that's because there's been nothing different here that is not here. Now, git pull is to pull get changes from the remote server. That is from GitHub or whatever service you're using. Git push is to push your local changes to your remote server. Push is to push your changes on the local to your remote. Pull is to pull data changes from your remote to your local. So it's like local to remote and remote to local. So I hope you guys are getting that. That is very, very important. Git push and git pull, they serve two different things. Yeah. So I believe that's pretty much it for git push and git pull. I'll just go over this again. This part is very, very important. Very, very, very important. And I was going to show you this is one way of creating your repository and linking it to your local servers. Like first you create on your remote and then you clone it to your local and all that. Now show us another way. I think I created another folder here. Now navigate into this plain git, yeah, and then if I do ls-a, there's no git here. So here, if I were to do that, that's the part where I start with git init first, yeah. So if I say git init, so you see what's happening here. Now git is telling us because they used I mean in the past they used master some years back. Using master as name for the initial branch, blah, blah, blah. This from Bryce, blah, blah, blah. It just gives all the warning anyways. You can ignore that. But now it's telling us to always use this main one that I told you guys about. This one. Well, we'll get to that anyways. So, well, you can see this output here, which says initialize empty git repository. Now, this changes or this initialization is only on your local. Now, if we do ls-a, you can now see that it has now given us that git configuration, that git folder where all of the configurations are. Yeah. Now you are ready to communicate with the GitHub. So this is Git on GitHub. Yeah. So now you're now ready to communicate with the GitHub server, which is your remote server, using Git. Yeah. So now you have this. This file is being this current directory is Git. I don't know if that word exists. Like it's now been gitted, whatever. You know, you guys understand what I mean. Like now, this directory now has Git, and you can push changes from this directory to GitHub server. You know, so I will come back here, and like I said, these are all changes in your local. It does not mean that's the changes on your remote yet. Nothing has been pushed to your remote. So it means that you have to go back to your remote and then create a new repository. So I create this repository. Now in this part, you can give it a separate name. It does not matter because at the end of the day, you can link both together using the other command, which is git add origin, whatever. I'll show you. But it is advisable, it is recommended. I mean, in order not to confuse yourself and confuse other people, if you are playing Git on your local, it's just recommended. I think it makes a lot of sense to make things a bit more readable, that you have the same folder as your repository name also on your GitHub. So, playing with Git. This is totally optional, right? And then we have the public, and then you can choose to add a README file, whatever, but usually I just ignore that. So you create your repository. Now you have this folder with Git on your local, and you also have this on your remote. But the difference is, or what's going on here now is, this is totally disconnected from this. This, however, is ready to connect to this. Now, in order to link both together, this is where we now have to come and do, let's say I have the README again, readme.md. Yeah, I'll open this also in my text editor. So I'll do, so I'll make this maybe 3, and I can say still teaching it. I can say Opio getting it. So I'll save this. Now git status. No changes committed yet, so I'll add that git add all. I'll clear my screen. So if I do git add all, I can say git status. Yeah. So I see new file. Yeah, new file that's been added, but it has not been sent to the remote server yet. Now I want to come back here. I have done, okay, I haven't committed yet. So the next phase after git add, I want to do my commit. So I'll do git commit minus n. Now this is the part where you need to use all of these instructions, yeah? So git commit, just copy it, and say creating or create repo first on my local environment. Okay, so that's done. And then I can now do this, git branch main. I think if I do git branch, let's see first. You can see this is showing master. This is if I'm creating the repo, if I'm initializing it first on my local computer, it's showing me master branch. But we'll, like I said, we'll get to master, we'll get to branches later. So I just want to follow the instruction, change that to main. And then now this part is very important now, because this repository here is still totally disconnected from this part. And this is the part where we now need to link both, and this is where it works. So you're adding this remote to your local, which is what this command is literally saying. Git remote hard origin, git remote hard origin. And then I am using the SSH version, obviously. If you're using the HTTP, you see that it changes. I'm using the SSH version. So I do that, and then of course it's there, and then I go do git push, and everything will work. Now if I refresh, so you can see what I did in my README, and now everything is pushed up. Now that's another way that you can create repository also. So you can either create on your remote server first and then clone to your local, or you can create on your local first and then remote add to the remote origin, the remote repository, remote server. I hope you guys get that. I hope you guys understood that. Please let me know. Do I need to clarify things there? I mean, okay, awesome. So so that's settled. That's settled. Now we have two ways of creating a repository and getting both the local and remote to work, which is you can either create on the remote and then you clone to your local, or you create on your local and then you remote add to your remote, but you have to create also on your remote, and then you have to link the two by using the git remote add. That's if you're creating on your local first, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be creating your local first. You can create on your remote first and then come and create on your local. But one way of doing it is to clone the remote to your local, or it's to do the git remote add. So you guys understand that. So now that we have done that, we're done with cloning, we're done with pushing, we're done with pulling. Now we want to go into branching. Now, like I explained from the, when we started earlier, I mentioned that now your main branch is where all of those things are saying, and then let's say, for instance, like, the same situation or example that we're using. Let's say it's a Facebook clone, and then you want to create the authentication part, which is the login and the sign up part. Yeah. Now, as a member or as a collaborator on this project, you do not want to be working on the main source code. I mean, obviously you'll be working on the main source code, but not in the main repository, the master repository, right? So that if there are any errors, you can at least not mess things up. So a way of doing that is to create another bubble, another compartment, away. So you're making a copy of the main source code and then you're putting it inside of another compartment away from the main one. So if anything goes wrong, you can literally roll that and trash it away without having to affect the main one. So we'll just do that. We'll do that first. So now that's called branching. Now, how do you create branch? The command for creating branch, let me clear this. So the command for creating branch is called git checkout. Now, if the branch does not exist, you will use -b and then the branch name. If the branch does not exist. If the branch, however, exists, you can move within different branches anyway. So if the branch already exists, then there's no need for the -b. You just use the branch name. So what I'm going to do, first you want to check, does the branch name exist or not? How do you check that? It's called git branch. And you can see we only have one branch. So I can now create another branch because I want to add new features to our source code that we're pushing. So I'll do git checkout -b and then the branch name. And I want to say authentication. So now you can see it says switch to a new branch. So if I do git branch now, you can see this asterisk is now showing me that the authentication branch is where I'm currently at. It's switched to the authentication branch. Now I'm away from the main branch. So the source code is copied from here to here. It's just like I work on something on a document and I put in a flash, and then you copy the document from my flash drive into your computer. Meanwhile, you can make changes on the document that you have on your computer, but the original one in the flash drive still remains original, right? That's basically what's happening here. Except with Git, it's a lot sweeter. Yeah. So now we have another branch. So if I do git status, obviously nothing. So now what's happening here, this is a new bubble, a new branch. And what this means is it has copied all the source code from here and then it has moved it here. Now you can make changes, you can do all sorts that you want inside of this branch. And you're doing it away from this branch. So if I come here and I say, let's see, what should we do? Let's create a Python file. So say touch, and then I want to say, you know what? I want to create a, let's see, what should I create? I was going to create a Python program. Well, anyways, let's create a Python program. Oh, you know what? I think I want to practice with my C skills. I'm just learning, yeah? So I want to create a C program. So I want to say touch, say hello.c, yeah? Okay, so now all of these changes, if I do git status, all of these changes are, you can see it keeps reminding me I'm on a branch, which is the authentication. So that means whatever is happening here is not affecting this guy yet. So on this branch, I just created a say hello.c, and then I want to go into the C thing, yeah, the C file, and then of course I want to play around and just say this program will say hello to users, and then I want to hash include and standard io.h, and then int main void, and then printf hello people, trust you are enjoying the Git tutorial. Yes, I believe you are. And then yeah, okay, then return 0. So let's see, if I do this and then I try to run this, and then I can say hello, not hello, then I can say hello. Let's see. So it compiles it, and then I can do my say hello. Yeah, that's working. Awesome. So clear that. Now forget this try was just showing off myself, my skills, my newfound skill in C. So git status again. So you can see now I have all this bunch of stuffs. But let's say I do not want to push. So we'll use git ignore here. I'll create dot git ignore. Remember it's dot. That's with dot git ignore. Now inside that I do not want to move anything from here. So I can say dot VS Code. Yeah. And just to be sure that I'm not moving files inside of the VS Code, I can say all. Yeah. So it's not moving anything from the VS Code. So if I do git status again, so you can see the .vs code is now gone. The directory, the invisible directory is now gone. So I only have these 3 files. So now I can say git add all, git commit -m, and then I say, I created a C program. Wow. Okay, I want to do another style, right, of commit. So I can just press enter here, and then do dash. Said I created a C program. Why am I having typo everywhere? And I can still come down here, create another. Say this program says hello to its users. So you see what's happening. I started with the double quote here, and I made sure that I didn't end the statement until I'm finished typing all my comments, and I ended it with closing double quotes here. That's very important. So you can either do a one-liner commit message, or you can break it down, but just make sure that you have the open and close double quotes. That is very, very important. So now if I do commit message, everything is working. And then I can do git push. Now, when I do git push, when you're away from your master branch, which is your main branch, every time that you try to push, you must push to the new branch. You must reference the new branch. So that will be git push. Your new origin now will now be the branch name, which is authentication. Otherwise, there will be error there. So now you see that it has pushed to the authentication. So now if I come here and I refresh, well, it's already there. So you can see that I have, authentication I recent pushes less than a minute ago, obviously. So now I'm on my main branch here. So it's not seeing it. But if I come here, I will see the authentication branch that I pushed. So if I go to the authentication branch, you see, these are the changes. These are the new changes. But you can see that they're totally different away from the main one. Yeah. So now look at this. Now I feel like, okay, you know what? I have made a good, let's see if we have any question. Okay, no question. So let's say, I feel like, where is that? Yeah, so now I'm feeling confident. You know what? I am done with these changes, and I feel like I've done a really good job. And then my supervisor or the project manager who's like the admin of the Git comes and then, he checks my code. He can come here and then compare the program, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, I can come here and create a pull request for my, for my manager or project manager to merge my request, and then he'll get it rather, and do all the merging and all that. But anyways, you have this pushes, these new changes inside of this authentication, but they're not merged yet to your master. So if we do git status, git status, there's nothing. We are still on our branch authentication. Git branch, just to confirm that. Now I want to go back to my main branch. Now if I do, so look at what happens here. Look at this thing here. Watch what happens closely here. Yeah. If I do git checkout, remember I said if the branch exists, there's no need to do the -b flag. Only if it does not exist and you're creating a new branch. But if it does, then just go to the main branch, the whatever branch you're going to. Now switch it to the main branch, see what happens. These files are deleted. That's because on the main branch is still blind to whatever changes that happens inside of this branch. It does not know what's going on outside of itself. Like, so there's another bubble elsewhere. Well, I'm just gonna mind my business, right? So it's not attempting to see what's going on there. It's like, look, I am not authorized to get into your business, right? So now, in order for the main branch to get into the authentications business, we have to run another command, which is the merging. Now, we can merge and have issues, and those issues are called conflicts, which I will attempt to do that also. But for now, we will avoid the conflicts first. So I come here and I say, oh, we want to merge. I want to merge the changes that another developer has done in the authentication to the main branch after I have confirmed that its changes are good. Well, you know how to pull from the remote, which is git pull, right? If you need to like see what someone else has done, so it pulls all the new branch and the changes and everything. So, well, anyways, let's say that you have confirmed it and then you have pulled and then you want to merge it to the main branch now. First, you check out to that main branch and then you do a git merge the name of the branch that you want to merge to the main source, the main branch, which is authentication. Now, if we do this, look at everything is back. Everything is back here. So if we do git status, it says your branch is ahead of blah 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 by one commit. Use git push to publish your local commit. So we have the branch, we have the main branch being updated on our local. Everything is updated on our local, but on our remote, nothing is still updated yet. And that's because we haven't pushed. So we need to push to our remote, which is git push. Remember, we're on our main branch, master branch, so there's no point using origin and again. Just git push will do it, except if you're working on a different branch. So git push, and then it pushes that changes to the remote server. And everything is, done. So do you guys understand so far? We will still do the other part of merging that involves conflict. But so far, do you guys understand? Are you guys there? Do you understand? Practice, practice. Yeah, of course you have to practice. Yeah, these things can take time. You have to practice. Well, anyways, I think I'll just stop at merging for tonight. We are already approaching 1.5 hours, which is already too long. But I kind of like the fact that I'm able to elaborate on what every command is doing, just to get you guys to understand. So I'm sure when you go over the video again, you will understand what's going on. Yeah, which obviously I will upload to YouTube, and you can always refer back to that and practice along. You know what? I don't know. It seems like most people only have gone to sleep. So what I'll do is, since you're here, hi, at least you're the only one responding, I will still go ahead. Anyways, I'm pushing it to the YouTube for people to still watch. So I'll go ahead and do the merging that has conflicts. So what we'll do is I'll go back to my authentication first, authentication branch rather. So that'll be git checkout authentication, and then I want to create a file here and say new file .txt, and then so in this new file I want to put changes in authentication branch, yeah, and then I can say git add all, git commits, and then changes in authentication. Okay, and then I can say git push. Now if I do git push, I will have an error because I'm in a different branch that is not the main branch. So I have to make sure that I mention that branch. Git push origin authentication. Okay, so that should now be pushed to the authentication branch. Okay, so you can see that. But it's still not on the main branch yet, but it's on the authentication branch. So what I'll do here is I will go back. I want to go back to my main branch. So let's say that on my main branch, I have the same file. I'm working on the same file too. So I'll create a new file here too. Yeah. And on this new file, I want to say this is a new file with changes on the main branch. Yeah. And then if I do git status, okay, so that's that. And then I can do git add all, git commit. Now I'll show you a simple trick. You can do git commit -m and then pushing new file. So obviously after this command, then I want to push, you can add that command to this ampersand, which is and. So what this is saying is after this, if this is done successfully, then do this. So git push. So you run that command one line, and yeah. So he does the commit first, which is that, and then he does the pushing. Yeah. So you can see if I go on the new file, this is in the authentication branch. If I go to the main branch and I do the same, you see this is the one on the main branch. Now I want to merge it, and this is where the merge conflict happens. So let me just see if there are no questions. Okay. So if I go here and I do git merge the authentication, you see here it tells me, oh, look, there's a problem. Auto merging, blah, 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 blah. Automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, and then commit it. So if I do git status here, you can see on merge paths, which is both added this. So in order to resolve this, I can come here and I can say git add, I want to re-add this file alone. Or you can do git add all anyways. Now when I do that, now I can do git merge and then the branch name. So you have not concluded your merge yet. Sorry, Claire. Let's try that again. Git, let's see, git, already did git add and git status rather. Okay, so the changes have been fixed, but now I need to commit it. So I can do git commit -m merged. And then I can do, so you see that I can now say git merge authentication. Yeah, already up to date. So now git push. Or now let's just see the file. So I can say cat, what's the file name, new file? Okay, so you see what's happening. Now it has matched the content of the main branch and the content of the original, the authentication branch. Now what you can do here is, these markers are just there to let you know this is the current and then this is the incoming one. So you can literally just come here and then just remove that manually, you know. You can literally just come here and remove that manually, you know, and then just leave the two changes there. So you can come here again. Obviously there's a change in the file, so you have to add it all over again. Git commit successfully merged both conflicts. And then git push because I'm on the main branch. And then now we have successfully merged both content together. So if I do this, you can see that. So I have the content of the main branch and the content of the authentication branch. So that's how you resolve merge conflicts. Do you understand? Do you understand? Awesome, awesome. So I guess I'll just end it here. It's already 1 hour 34 minutes, going to 35. So I'll end the video here, and maybe we can continue tomorrow or whatever. We'll see. But there's still a few things that we can still touch on in terms of Git. There's the rebase, or there's still the clean, you know, for files that you do not want. Let's just say Let's say I commit a new, or yeah, let's see, let's do this. Git add or git, no, not git add. Let's say touch uh, bat file, txt. So I come here and I say this is a bat file. Do not push. So I can say, let me print this. So git add, yeah, and then I say, oh, we still need to do the commit and the log. So we can do git log to see all of the commits that we have done. So you can see this is on the first one, the second, like, and you can go back to different commits, like I said. So the commits are like different version. This is like the version numbers. So you can take the first 6 numbers, or you can take all of the numbers, whichever one. So let's say I want to come back to this here. So this changes in authentication. I can come here, copy the first 6, and I can say git is it? I think it's git commits or git checkout. I can't remember even. Yeah, git checkout. Yeah, so you see that Ed is now at. So if I do ls or git status, yeah, so there's the bad file, but then there's been changes, and let me see, am I in the branch? Yeah, Ed is now, so it's detached. I am now on this, what's it called? I am now on this changes in authentication branch. And you can see that's the one that's now like highlighted. Let's see. So git log now. So if I do git log, you can see it's now showing me only 3 commits, not all these ones. Yeah. Here we have about what, 6 commits, but now I'm now here. So that means these ones are not existing. So I can maybe I can actually just change everything, delete the previous ones, and just stay here and continue my work from here. If maybe I've done a whole lot of errors in all of these other commits, but I can also switch back. I can also switch back to that. So the first 6 will do, or you can copy all, like I said. So git, is it commit or checkout? I did just now. Git checkout. Okay, previous ed. So now I can do git ls, git log, and then I have all of my commits back again. So you can see how it works. So you can switch between different versions. You can see Ed is now at this new one, and the commit message is successfully matched both conflicts. So you can literally go from one version to another, and it does not have to be sequentially. You can just go randomly to anyone. You just need to know the commit number, which is like the version number. So that's, another sweet stuff about Git. So for this bad file, what was I going to do with the bad file? Okay, well, it's there and it needs to be committed for changes. I can say git clean, then fd, then git status. No, okay, my bad. Git, I think it's git rm, then the bad file. Well, I think I already did this. Error, or just remove it totally. I already showed you guys this. Yeah. So just remove the bad file rather, and then yeah, that's gone. So no more bad file. We're not pushing that. So basically, we should be good with git status and everything should be clean. Yeah, nothing to commit. Working tree clean. So yeah, git reset ed. No, git reset. I think it's hard /add add to this. Okay, git reset. Let's say reset add to this. Yeah. So git status. Well, we're still there. I can't remember the git reset command, but yeah. So there's the git resets to do. There's the well, we haven't really looked at the commit. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow or whatever. And then, yeah, I need to show you guys how to SSH, like connect your, your remote and your local using SSH. So I'll just list out some of the topics I'll probably treat tomorrow, or maybe I can do a short video to explain that. So I guess that'll be all. I will post this video on YouTube, and then you guys can make references to it. I hope that is all clear though. Well, thank you for your time, and I will be ending this video at 1:40. 1:40. Yeah, 1:40. All right, so thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a really good night. It's already well, almost 1 a.m. I should get to sleep too, because I'll be waking up very early to work out. Well, anyways, really appreciate you guys coming on, and have a good night. So see you guys. Yeah, it's almost 1. It's 12:52. Yeah. All right, guys. Take care and enjoy your night. So stop my video.